What's up, guys? Happy Saturday. It's October 3rd, 2020. Hopefully you guys are having a good weekend. A lot of you guys I know watching UFC right now. I don't even know why I got this headset going. Yeah, there's NFL tomorrow. There's a couple games that got the old heave-ho. Some surprise news earlier today. Cam Newton got the Rona. So that game's been postponed, potentially to Monday or Tuesday. I believe their process is waiting for some more test results tomorrow. Looks like DraftKings went ahead and yoinked it from the Week 4 main slate, so we don't have to deal with it. And yeah, other than that, we knew the Titans game was yoinked. I also think they moved around a game tomorrow. Was it the Bears game? They moved to the afternoon slate, I believe. So a lot of wonky stuff. Hopefully nothing else. No more curveballs for tomorrow. But we are going to jump into the slate in this video. I have been very busy this week. So I absolutely have to apologize to you guys for the lack of content. I have other YouTube channels, and one of my other channels exploded this week. It absolutely exploded. I have over 1.5 million views on that channel in the last 3 days, and almost 1,000 new subscribers in the last 1 day. So it's just kind of prioritizing money. I also have had like a lot of real life stuff this week, and then it's just Yankee playoff baseball. So there's definitely a lot of stuff that was kind of obstacle. Was an obstacle to produce content. However, I've said it years past, like I don't feel as much pressure to deliver early NFL content because one, there's just so much NFL content out there, and two, so much changes throughout the week. And this year it's been extra because of the pandemic, the coronavirus. But just like NBA, right? Like I didn't love pointing out super early NBA videos because so much changes 30 minutes to an hour before lock. Same with NFL. If I put up a full breakdown on Tuesday, people get injured in practice. People get ruled out. Games get postponed. So I don't hate putting up Saturday night breakdowns like this. Matter of fact, I think it's like the highest potential quality just because you have all of the up to the minute stuff. But so many of you guys have reached out to me, Twitter DMs. Much love to you guys wanting the content. So I definitely appreciate the fact that there is a bit of you that go out of your way to seek out my content. So I appreciate that. But yeah, sorry we didn't have some stuff earlier in the week. We're definitely going to chop it up tonight. It's going to be a little bit more laid back, a little bit more formal. So if you guys have picks and plays, throw them at me as we go game by game. If you're watching the fights, put them on. If you listen to some music, put that on, man. We're chilling. After this, I'm going to get probably into the RunDFS.com VIP Discord, chop it up a little bit in there. And I know I know Chronic and Logan have told me today that they just got a lab subscription. So if you guys are new to like an optimizer or even fantasy labs and maybe need a little bit of a brush up, hit me up in the Discord and I'll go through some of the features that I use. I'm completely unaffiliated with them, but I definitely have been using that Opto for a while, so I don't mind helping out the Vipers. Speaking of the Vipers, we got to get that plug out the way, right? You guys are watching this on YouTube. What you see on the screen is RunDFS.com. That's the place where we don't just play DFS, we run DFS. If you guys want access to what will become of my game notes after tonight's stream, my personal player pool, my personal projections, stuff like this, in addition to access to the 24/7 Discord, the daily voice chat, stuff like that, go to RunDFS.com, get yourself a subscription. I believe we have the cheapest prices ever in our history right now, and I did it for a Friday special. The week pass is at $20. 2 week pass $30. Month pass is at $50. That's usually $100. You can lock in the rest of the year for just $100. And because a couple of people asked me, and we don't know what the status of the NBA is coming back in December or January, the full year pass for next year is up already. So if you guys wanted to lock in next year and get the last 3 months of this year in, we'll do that. So all that stuff, pretty good stuff, pretty good deals. I definitely wanted to reduce the prices because of the lack of NBA slates, and in baseball it's just all-day postseason stuff. So I haven't really been able to host proper pregame voice chats because the slate's just so spread out. But a good time to watch sports, right? I'm loving like, oh my God, Yankees this week, man. It's just absolutely incredible games. Anyway, we're live on YouTube. Shout out to the live YouTube chat. You guys hanging out with me. We didn't really schedule the stream until maybe 20, 30 minutes before I went live. So you guys are the real ones. Giuliano, Ernesto. What up, Ernesto? Sideways Universe. Man, I hope you guys are doing well. FanDuel, same. Looking forward. Have not seen your videos in a while. Yeah, man. Like I said, it's been a rocky road the last week. And then I just have so much going on, like so much going on, that it's hard to juggle everything. But we're here. What up, Ernesto? Hope y'all are crushing it. Sideways, trying to take down the DK quarter juke tomorrow. Hey, man. You can do it, I believe. So let's look at this week's slate. Shall we? I know a lot of you guys are probably already really versed in researching this week. I've lightly paid attention, but I didn't invest too much time. So here we're just kind of like freestyle initial thoughts, initial ideas, and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try to juggle everything that I feel like is worth juggling. So we're gonna start with the Arizona Cardinals and Carolina Panthers game. First thing we want to do is check out the total on that. It looks like the total is 52. We got a 3-point spread in favor of the Arizona Cardinals. And I'll tell you what, they're giving the Panthers 24.5. So plenty of implied points to go out there and target. We know that the Carolina Panthers have been without Christian McCaffrey, and that has introduced Mike Davis into the group chat. And he's 5,700 Bucks on DraftKings. 13 carries last week, 9 targets. So is this a discounted? Is this a discounted CMC? Maybe. Let me go check out his snap counts from last week. Actually, I should have. No, that's the season. I was gonna say I should have that from in the sheet. I actually have the full season snap counts in the RunDFS.com spreadsheet. But last week, Mike Davis played 76% of his offensive snaps. I'm cool with that. I'll jot down Mike Davis here as one of my first options to go after. I love the fact that he's a target guy. PPR his way into a really solid game at 5,700 against the Cardinals. Cardinals, of course, are an air raid style offense, fast pace, and there's a proper game script here for the Panthers to play from behind. So a lot of love there for Mike Davis. Probably a little bit too cheap here. If I run my projections here and sort by highest value on DraftKings, I feel like Mike Davis could be that low. Control F Mike Davis. Got him at 15.95, almost 3x value. Yeah, I'll take a bite out of that. So give me some Mike Davis to start off with. If I'm looking at any of the pass catchers from the Panthers, I think you can make cases for like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel. I'm not overly in love with marrying myself to anyone in particular, but I certainly think that the volume and the game script will support throwing the ball to those guys as well. So I'm game with that. DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk officially have Q tags on them. Questionable. I think I wrote in the injury tracker that Hopkins was questionable in Friday, or no, he's just questionable with an ankle. So I think Hopkins is closer to in and out. I saw a tweet earlier. It was like a DraftKings promotion with Hopkins. I think I would assume Hopkins is closer to in than out, and then Kirk, since he missed last week, I would say he's out until he's in. So if Hopkins is in, obviously that's a ton of volume and opportunity against a porous defense, 8,500. You know, the double-digit targets likely there for him, 20-plus fantasy points likely there. So I definitely like him in a vacuum. I will say I will have a lot of my salary reserved for the high-end running backs. Alvin Kamara, for obvious reasons. Definitely like Dalvin Cook, and I'll never, not like Ezekiel Elliott here. So I might be lower than the field on Hopkins if he plays. Then again, I don't know if the field is going to be overly enthused to play Hopkins if he, walks in with a Q tag, right? Quarterbacks, Kyler Murray is always playable, especially in this game script, in this environment. He's just 7K. I'm looking for 25, 30. That's about what he's going to get you on an average day. Don't mind that at all. Is Bridgewater somebody we play? Probably. I don't think I'm going to get to a Bridgewater in this game. I think the first couple weeks of this season has really given us a new hybrid quarterback that just in years past we never really had to, the Cam Newton style. We have so many quarterbacks right now that are giving us high rushing floors, rushing touchdown potential. Will it fizzle out and not sustain at this level? Potentially, but Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, even Dak Prescott had a whole lot of rushing touchdowns 2 weeks ago, right? Kyler Murray. So I almost have to, I have to, but there's a great case to be made that it's more beneficial to marry yourself to quarterbacks that can really give you an argument for 40-plus rushing yards and maybe even some red zone work. So it does kind of fizzle out some of these mid-tier pocket quarterbacks when there's so much ceiling to be had. So I don't think I get to Bridgewater here. Mike Davis, absolutely. Maybe a couple sprinkles of the pass catchers from the Panthers. And then the Cardinals is such a spread-out offense that if Hopkins was out, obviously I'm all about some Kenyon Drake. I'll probably even have Kenyon Drake anyway. I feel like I've been playing Kenyon Drake every week, and I haven't had that big explosion yet. But the volume's there, 18, 20 carries last couple games, a target or two, 6K. He's going against a really bad overall defense. If we go look at the RunDFS.com defense versus position tab versus running back points per game, DraftKings points per game allowed. The Panthers are giving up the second most DraftKings points per game to opposing running backs. So it certainly stands to reason that this could be a spot for Kenyon Drake with or without DeAndre Hopkins. But if it were without Hopkins, fire me up. And then if you like narrative, I saw there's a Larry Fitzgerald charity benefit contest in the lobby. If D-Hop was out, maybe Fitz gets a couple more looks. But yeah, I think this game is pretty self-explanatory. So give me Murray, give me Mike Davis, a couple of Panthers receivers, and then if Hopkins is in, I'll play him. I'm probably not going to play with any of the peripheral plays here, right? Ernesto said, I think Hopkins sits. Just found out Michael Thomas is out. Michael Thomas is. I've just been assuming Michael Thomas has been out all week, just because whenever guys miss games, I got to see him in before I see him out again. So that's game number 1. Let's move to game number 2. I have so many screens open. Jaguars and the Bengals. So let's go look at the total for this one. We've got a 49 total, a 2.5 point spread in favor of the Bengals. Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon up against Gardner Minshew and guys like Robinson, Chark. Yeah, that game should be amazing on paper. AJ Green, could this be the spot for AJ Green to show up and show out? Couple of tough spots matchup-wise the first couple weeks, right? Really 5-5 for him. I know watching him, the eye test, he feels a little bit less explosive, but I certainly think at 5-5, if I could make a case for 13 targets, as a ceiling, but maybe 8 targets at 5-5. Yeah, I'd take a look at AJ Green in this particular spot. Not something I'm going to marry myself to. I do like the idea of Joe Mixon. If he does play, he has a Q tag on him. This Q tag was not from Friday. It was from yesterday, and it's a chest injury. If he doesn't play, and being added to an injury report on Saturday is very, very scary. If he doesn't play, Giovanni Bernard would probably be the immediate beneficiary, and he's 4.4. Well, you guys know that pop-up value running back that tends to sucker the field every week. This could be that scenario, but on paper it makes sense, right? Because if I'm gonna have interest in Bernard, in Mixon, it certainly makes sense to be interested in some Bernard. Samaje Perine, is he called up? I haven't seen anything about him, but I see him listed on the depth chart here. So maybe keep an eye on that tomorrow on the actives and inactives. Normally I wouldn't go crazy about a Q tag, but the fact that it was a Saturday edition and it's a chest, I definitely am more wary. If I'm not dabbling with AJ Green, Tyler Boyd's at least interesting. 8 and 13 targets the last couple weeks, 20 plus fantasy points. Definitely makes sense. And then the tight end spot. Last week, Drew Sample kind of okey-doked a lot of people after being introduced into that Cleveland game after CJ Uzuma got injured and got 9 targets, and then the curtain calls with just 1 target against the Eagles. I think tight ends, again, one of those positions where I pretty much know that there's some solid guys to rely on no matter what, like Mark Andrews. Higbee's been an end zone magnet lately. Darren Waller is obviously their wide receiver 1. So I probably don't need to go too crazy at the tight end position, but I wouldn't talk you off of Sample if you thought that it would fit whatever lineup construction you're making. But at his price, 35, it's not something I would push or resist against. I just don't think he's going to make my pool of tight ends. I keep my tight end pool pretty tight, probably like 5 or less if I can help it. So on the Jaguars side, Robinson, 6,500 for Robinson. He has been a workhorse for them, and then the 6 targets in that Miami game, pretty encouraging. Last week, Robinson got 45% of the snaps. Earlier in the season, or the first week of the season, he had all of the touches, and that game last week kind of game scripted away from them pretty quick. So if Vegas is going to hold this as a one-possession game, I definitely think James Robinson is somebody to think about in tournaments. Not, again, not anything that I'm going to base my entire day around, but the Bengals so far haven't been great against the run. 466 rushing yards allowed. A lot of that came from the Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb onslaught. And it's still a young season, so I don't want to overreact to what we're seeing just yet. But, I mean, the Bengals defense was porous against the run last season. And so far, nothing has shown us that they've really improved upon that. So, not crazy to suggest Robinson could have a good day against them, right? Gardner Minshew, fantasy sweetheart, 5'9". Like I said, I'm probably going to lean towards those 7K rushing floor guys. But Minshew give you 20 yards a game right now. Could I get 25 fantasy points out of him? He did it against Tennessee. The Bengals defense certainly a porous one, making some opposing quarterbacks look well. So I don't mind that. And of course, if I was gonna handcuff Minshew, it would be looking at guys like DJ Chark, who is just fun to play. 6K for him. At the receiver spot, if I can get 15 to 20 at 6K or less, I'd be an investor. Just 4 and 3 targets the first couple of weeks, but I think this game should play the most offense friendly to the Jaguars so far this season, even though the Jaguars have kind of surprised us in certain spots so far. What do you guys got on this game before I get out of here, right? Oh, nothing. You guys are quiet tonight. Remember, chat, man, give me your ideas on each game. You guys have had a head start. Keelan Cole, This is just like a weird fantasy. Like, it's super relevant for fantasy, but like in real life, it's not like a game that I'm running to watch. Injury report on this game? Anything? Let's see. The kicker might be out for Jaguars, or he is out. So maybe the Jaguars go for 2 a little bit more. Stephen Hauschka out, and then on the Bengals side, Mixon. Okay, I thought it said Mixon doubtful. All right. Let's move on to the next game here. We've got the Browns at the Dallas Cowboys. So this is the game everyone's asked me about so far, even before I went live. Giuliano in the chat kind of mentioned this game. Definitely one of the games I want to watch from a real life standpoint. 56 total. Lots of implied points so far. The Dallas Cowboys offense has been pretty fun for fantasy. The Browns have been a mixed bag of results here. And it's certainly anytime a team starts rising to the top with 2 elite running back options, it's scary. We've seen it with the Saints in the past, right? With Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, or Alvin Kamara and Lat Murray, though Lat Murray not as much. That always scares me, but for the most part, this game has a very, very desirable game flow to attack and 2 defenses to attack. So we start with the Browns side. Odell Beckham Jr. has been tweeting some inspirational stuff, motivational stuff on Twitter the last couple days. 6 targets in the last 2 games. Just 1 game over 10 fantasy points. I like the spot. I like the pace of this game from 5,800. Maybe he goes on lower owned. I hate that a couple games are dropping out because it's gonna open up ownership for these mid tier guys. But like I said, my initial reaction was to go jam in the high floor, high upside running backs like Kamara, Cook, Elliott, guys like that. Maybe even Chubb to an extent. So I'm looking for these 6K or less wide receivers, and if I can get a receiver that gives me an inherent ceiling like an Odell Beckham Jr., I will play him. Even Jarvis Landry, and then Austin Hooper, somebody at 4K. I don't mind having shares of. My only struggle with this receiving core for the Browns is that when I start attaching myself to 2+ pass catchers from a team, I start wanting to have exposure to the opposing quarterback, and Baker Mayfield is a little tough for me to play with an empty stomach, right? Fantasy-wise, just tough, just rough. And then he has two elite running backs that could really vulture his ceiling. So I am worried about that. He really hasn't shown us much in the clutch. And for fantasy, just generally. And this year it's just been even more so. So I'm worried about that. So I might have to really, really reflect on whether or not I want to run quarterback receiver correlations or just really have my exposure to the Browns as run backs to the Cowboys correlations. Because I'll have Dak Prescott. Like, I don't mind running that side of the correlation. So Dak Prescott, 7,200. All these quarterbacks, I need 25 plus, right, to be relevant. Dak has done that in his last two games. One of those games came with a very outlier-ish 3 rushing touchdowns, but we know that the Cowboys pretty much have baked in 3 or 4 implied touchdowns. Dak's gonna have his hand in it. You could always run the quarterback, running back, blanket all the touchdowns, and I mean maybe Zeke gets a pass catching touchdown. Receiving wise, I like all of these Cowboys receivers. If I had to rank them based on points per dollar, maybe CeeDee Lamb is floating to a little bit too expensive. But he's staying at the same price as he was last week, giving you double-digit fantasy points. The target shares there, 6 to 9 targets so far. But Amari Cooper at almost 7K, I think is a real struggle for me to gauge what I want my ownership to be on him. Obviously, I want him, but I need, or I would really want that 20-plus fantasy point day. And it's crazy to me that you could have 9 receptions and not have 20-plus fantasy points in a PPR format. But he did it, man. He just missed it he missed the 100-yard bonus by 14 yards. And he hasn't found the end zone yet. So if you believe in touchdown regression, maybe it's coming for him. But he'll be the probably the apple of that defense's eyes to start with. So Michael Gallup, the other guy that could float through here, 6,200 last week, big game for him, 28 fantasy points. Also had 9 targets, got himself into the end zone. It's a good burner. So it's a really talented receiving core. I'll have exposure to all of them. I'm just really gonna have to gauge the projected ownership by the field and just kind of play the numbers there. Because if that game's gonna really rise as quote unquote chalk, I'm just gonna have to manipulate leverage with that because we lost some pretty. We lost 2 games, but one of those games had a potential to really impact ownerships. Right, losing that Chiefs offense and then losing guys like Edelman and Cam Newton. So definitely think a lot of eyes will just go straight to this game. Dalton Schultz. What's going on with this guy? 4,300. Since assuming essentially the starting tight end role, 6 and 10 targets the last couple weeks. Dak's been looking at him. At 4,300, really from any tight end, I'm looking for 50 yards, a touchdown if I can get it. Just give me 15 fantasy points. Give me a puncher's chance. He'll probably be in the mix here. If we go look at that Cleveland Browns defense so far, 2 opposing tight ends via fantasy points per game. Browns have given up the 3rd most, and we've known them to be a team that defensively just really kind of rewards the opposing pass-catching tight end a little bit more. That little, and I think that was the game Drew Sample popped off, right? So maybe this could be a spot where Dalton Schultz is a pass catcher to put with Dak and maybe even Zeke to an extent, and not feel like you're giving yourself a bunch of 20s at wide receiver. So I don't mind looking at that either. And then, you guys feel any better on the Browns side and the running back side? They're a road dog, so it's already a little tough to love the running backs here. And then the fact that there's just 2 really, really elite running backs is even more annoying. I did see a Q tag on, was it Kareem Hunt? When I did my injury report recap earlier. I believe it is Hunt, yeah. Groin was limited in practice Friday. So, I limited in practice, I'm just going to assume he's playing. But there is a loose chance that he didn't play. If you knew right now that Kareem Hunt doesn't play, and you look at this game total, is 7K Nick Chubb somebody you're seeking? It's kind of a hypothetical question, right? do we get 25 touches for him? Will there be carries? And will he assume some of those Kareem Hunt targets? Just 1 target per game so far. It's very possible. So something to think about as you're making your pulls and your lineups tonight. I think what I would probably do right now, if I think that both running backs are in, I don't know that I'm getting a fantastic pre-flop deal on Hunt or Chubb. And because of that, I probably just stay away, right? Like, I'm just going to lean on the Kamaras and the Cooks. And then maybe even float down to a couple of those value running backs we've kind of briefly discussed, right? The Mike Davis, the Robinsons, guys like that. So I probably don't get to the Browns running back situation here, right? What up, Flowers? Love DJ Chark. Minshew Chark stack. I'm with that for sure. My bad. New England getting postponed got me redoing some of my lineups. No, I think you're fine. What's up, Earth to Air? CD Lamb, yeah. Am I crazy, or is Hunt receiving more red zone work this year? I don't think you're crazy, but I can answer that for you if you. Red zone stats. Let's go. Hunt. So this year, Kareem Hunt has 11 rushes inside the 20, 5 inside the 10, 3 inside the 5, and has a touchdown. So we said 11 inside the 20, and then Nick Chubb has 11 inside the 20. It's almost completely identical, Chubb and Hunt. That's why it's even more frustrating, because neither one of them are like bargain bin price, you know. But again, 3-game sample size, and one of those games against the Bengals was a little bit of a laugher, right? But so far, I mean, it's been pretty split, which is frustrating, right? Put 7K into a timeshare running back is not, doesn't make you feel great. Amari Cooper's due for some touchdowns. I agree, Jamil. I do. I think the volume will continue to be there. Dak definitely looks at Amari. Maybe the matchup is a little bit rougher, but I think Cooper almost feels like he does better against perceived tougher corners, right? Let's move on to the next game here. Saints and the Lions. We got a game total on this one at 54. Yowzer. So that total is actually just a safety below the Cowboys game, and I do feel like we have a higher predictive value of concentrated usage on really both sides. We'll start with the Saints side. Drew Brees has not been throwing the ball downfield, and he's been checked down Charlie and Alvin Kamara at AK. Without Michael Thomas, I this guy might hit value if you had 0 carries, you know. 14 targets against Green Bay in that primetime game. 20-plus fantasy points each game so far this season. I just 100%, and maybe this has burned me in the first couple weeks, Kamara will be my highest owned player, and it is what it is, right? If he rolls an ankle in the first quarter, I'm just taking that L. I just can't see a scenario where Kamara's not the best value, really, at AK. Like, goodness gracious. Where did my soft projections have Kamara value-wise at AK? Had him at 23.5, which is almost 3x value at AK. Yeah, there's just no way I'm not going to have all of the Kamara. Like, if I was in a 20 entry max, there's a great chance I would have 100% Kamara. And I'm usually very, very cognitive of risk and ranges of outcomes. But I already assume that he's going to be one of the highest owned players on the slate. And I just want to out-leverage that, you know. Usually if it gets egregious, I either want to be all the way over, all the way under. I just can't see myself being under on Kamara. It's just too good of a spot. It really is. Outside of Kamara, I'm not even going to push the issue with any of these other Saints players. Sure, you can make errant cases for like a Sanders here and there. The tight end situation is a little weird for them right now. Jared Cook is out. So even more probably trust and chemistry for Kamara to pick up. Trotman is the next man up. 2,500 puncher's chance if you just want to sacrifice that tight end spot. Maybe he gets in there. I wouldn't talk you off of it. I also think that would probably create some Taysom Hill troll stuff. Not something we can attack on a main slate. But just from a real life perspective, I think Jared Cook being out could be a loose uptick or benefit for Taysom Hill. And then past that, Emmanuel Sanders and guys like that. Now, because Kamara had such limited carries, and I do think that trend will probably be likely here. Like, you might see a lot of Kamara, like, in the slot or whatever. Latavius Murray had 12 carries against the Packers, and even a target. I think Latavius Murray could be a real fun tournament play. Low range of outcomes, but for, like, mass field, I don't think it's impossible for, like, Murray and Kamara to be coexisting in a high-scoring line. I just don't think at these prices that's out of the ranges of outcome. So I don't hate the idea of running some Murray in tournaments, or really if you're playing that early only or even the main slate and it's mass entry, right? We're talking like million maker mass entry. I think there's several scenarios, right, where something could go Lat Murray's way here. So Kamara and Murray, those two. On the Lions side, so I said that this game felt higher in predictive value than the Browns and the Cowboys, right? And the reason I think that is because the Browns and Cowboys just have so many weapons that they can spread out with. With the Saints, they're going to look at Kamara. And on the Lions, Stafford's going to look at Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones and even T.J. Hawkinson to an extent. And I'm not going to go crazy with the running back situation, right? Adrian Peterson, if I lose because Adrian Peterson breaks the slate, I lose. So Kenny Golladay, run that back with some Kamara, $6K for him, sure. 7 targets in his season debut last week. Marvin Jones, another guy that probably benefits from Golladay being back. Golladay can be the apple of a lot of defenses' eyes, so I don't mind him in some big field tournaments. And then even TJ Hawkinson, he's almost 5K, so I don't feel like I'm getting a fantastic deal here. 7 targets last week. I think that price is probably going to get me low on Hawkinson exposure, but I definitely don't mind Golladay at all. And then Stafford, again, I feel obliged to play rushing quarterbacks right now, so I don't think Stafford's going to fit the bill for me unless he has 3-4 touchdowns and 300-plus yards. But I definitely don't think that's impossible. But from what I've been seeing out of the Saints, man, the fact that Drew Brees just isn't throwing down the field, I believe that's going to end up in a lot of run game, a lot of short checkdowns, and a lot of just clock running. So I do feel like this game could be a little bit slower in terms of pace, and then just time of possession could be really, really big. So I do like this game a little bit more than the Cowboys game just because I feel like I can predict it more. But I also could see this game being a little lower scoring than the total has it right now, right? The Saints just always get love when it comes to Vegas totals, and they're missing Thomas, and they're on the road. Like, there's definitely a scenario for the Saints to not, put up 4 touchdowns here, right? What you guys got in chat? What up, Van Jones? Play of the week is Isaiah Wright for min price. Isaiah Wright for Washington. All right, I haven't hit that game yet, but I'll definitely check him out. 3K. 6 targets against Cleveland. Tied for 3rd most on the team. Man, I tell you what, I have been at the Logan Thomas slot machine. Relying on Dwayne Haskins is getting a little hard. But I dig it. I like that call. Detroit New Orleans game will be the highest scoring game in this main slate. Stafford's going to feed Golladay Jones with Lattimore, Jenkins out, stack them like Pringles. Yeah, great reminder that the cornerbacks for the Saints are out, which again I think could result in the Saints want to dominate some time of possession if they can do it. But yeah, I 100% Lattimore and Jenkins being out is big for Kenny Golladay. What up, Ryan Sullivan? Who should I start, Brandon Ayuk or Scary Terry? Man, that's tough. Terry McLaurin feels like he's going to just have a higher floor of targets. Ayuk is, and the 49ers offense is so hard to predict. I guess since Monster's out still, you can make a case that Ayuk might get some carries, but yikes. I don't know. That's a coin flip, bro. That's tough. You're in a corner, bro. I wouldn't want to be there. Detroit's going to have to throw. They'll want to start fast. Amendola could be sneaky, especially if Detroit's playing catch-up. So, have you guys been watching these Saints games? Like, if you take out Marshawn Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins, the Saints offense hasn't been firing on all cylinders. Like, there's been games where Emmanuel Sanders is literally ghosted, and then obviously no Mike Thomas is massive, and now you take out Jared Cook. I mean, Traquan Smith has looked good, and when Drew Brees looks this way, but I feel like the Saints offense isn't what we think it was. Like, could this be like the Panthers from last year, right? Could this Kamara just be the CMC, and then there's supplementary plays? And so I basically, are we overrating the Saints offense with the pieces they'll have today? Because what I saw against the Packers, it really wasn't like super encouraging. So, thoughts on the Buffalo and Raiders stack? I'm gonna get to that game just a minute, Austin. Wesley, what up, Wesley? Single entry GPP 5100 flex. You like Landry or drop down to Ronald Jones? Oh man, I tell you what. Normally I would not love Ronald Jones, but with Fournette out and Chris Godwin out, I definitely think there's a chance for him there. I haven't got to that game just yet. But Landry's in a high total. He's going to get targets. So if it's in PPR, I'd probably take Landry for floor. But I definitely think there's a stronger case for Ronald Jones this week, just because of some of the other stuff happening. This is where the fish hang. We got one of those guys. Gotcha. All right, let's move on to the next game. Vikings and the Texans. Let's go run the total on this one. We've got 53.5 total here. 3.5 point spread in favor of the Texans. So I think Dalvin Cook's matchup here is really, really, really pristine. 7,600 for him. The usage is going to be there. 22 carries last week. If you can give me 25 touches for Dalvin Cook here, and I think that's a strong range of outcomes. I think 20 plus fantasy points is a thing. Maybe you prefer him at home, but I'm not going to overthink that aspect just yet. So yeah, Dalvin Cook's where I start my interest in the Vikings side. Obviously, guys like Adam Thielen are raised some eyebrows, right? He's been a high target guy, high air yards guy. 5 targets last week. Game 1, he went nuts. The other guy from the Vikings that looked just downright amazing last week in the post-Stephon Diggs era is Justin Jefferson. 9 targets last week, 33.5 fantasy points. A lot of that came on like a 70-yard bomb, but he certainly looked good. Like, he just looked good from the routes he was running and what he was doing with the targets he was getting. So I do want to see if I can create a path of increased snap counts from week to week. So let's go to snap counts. And last week, Justin Jefferson, he played 78% of snaps in week 3. So if I move that to week 2, Jefferson played 54%, so he did get an increase in snap counts last week. So I don't mind looking at Justin Jefferson here. Maybe a lot of people will write this off as fake. Obviously, getting a 70-yard touchdown is a little anomalic. But at 5'2", can I get a shot at 20 fantasy points? I think so. It's just somebody I'm keeping an eye on. Even if you don't play him, maybe you grab him off waivers or something in season long or something like that, On the Texans side, this is an offense sorely missing DeAndre Hopkins. Will Fuller was limited in practice with a hamstring, but what else is new? He'd certainly be somebody I'm looking at $6K if I wanted to start targeting this Texans offense. Cook steals. I mean, this is just spin the wheel, make a deal, and hope for the best. Deshaun Watson, 6,600. I think there is a range of outcomes. We're 6,600. We're getting a pretty good discount on what Watson's ceiling is. A really rough stretch the last 2 weeks. Chiefs in game one, just he couldn't get anything going against them. And I know his receivers were banged up. And then he had the Ravens defense and the Steelers defense. So you go from them into the Vikings defense, which the Vikings defense sounds a little rougher than what they really are. I think there's a scenario where Deshaun Watson definitely fills out a great fantasy day at 6,600. And could I get 25 to 30? Get a little bit more rushing yards. We know that's in his back pocket, and we know he can rush for a touchdown. So I do like the idea of Deshaun Watson being a little bit underpriced. And then I think, like I said, you spin the wheel, make a deal with his receivers. I think Randall Cobb is somebody you can look at as maybe like a possession receiver, 4-6 targets there. Nothing to be super excited about, but has turned in double-digit fantasy points the last 2 weeks. Will Fuller's the more household name for fantasy players that gives us a taste of upside, 15 and 22 in the games where he was a targeted receiver. And then Brandon Cooks is somebody that we know historically has big game potential. And then David Johnson, 5,600 for him, 13 carries last week. The target's been 3-4 last couple games. So far, we haven't had a positive game script for the Texans, right? Just about every game so far is a full possession deficit. Well, if they're coming into this game as a slight favorite, I mean, this is really what you want, right? This is a plus for your home favorite running back, and we know he has some PPR potential for fantasy. Yeah, put him in the mix for me, 5,600. I don't mind that at all. Let me look at thus far what the Vikings have allowed to opposing running backs. Vikings have allowed 30.8 fantasy points, DraftKings fantasy points per game to the opposing running back position through the first couple games. Over 400 yards rushing. Yeah, there's no reason really for me to push back on a guy like David Johnson. Obviously, Duke Johnson's in the mix as well, but I certainly think it stands to reason that David Johnson could kind of slide there as a fine play in tournament. So give me some Cook, give me some David Johnson. Thielen, Jefferson, toss up there. I'm not in love with any specific Texans receiver, but they'll all be in the pool as probably like tier 3 exposures, Yeah, I know. Might lock in Kamara and just live with it. Jamil, that's where I'm at, bro. If AK Kamara against the Detroit Lions, like I say, he could smash value with 0 carries. So I'm 100% with you on that. And because we should project his ownership to be pretty high by the field, I just want to manipulate as high leverage as I possibly can for what I think is the reasonable range of outcome. And my range of outcome here is that Kamara should be 10K in this spot, and he's not. Just like Tommy Title, can't bet against him yet either. Drew Brees' thumb could still be bothering him, but he did bounce back last week. It's Drew Brees. I can't bet against him just yet. I don't want to bet against Drew Brees. I'm just saying, with the weapons he has today, we might be thinking of Superdome, Michael Thomas, Jared Cook offense, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not that, right? So I still think Drew Brees and Sean Payton, they'll find ways to fight, and they'll make the game as favorable to their chances of winning as possible. And if I was the coach and I knew my defense was banged up, right, my 2 best corners are down, I probably want to keep the defense off the field as much as possible. And I've got a great pass catcher and short checkdowns and like Kamara, Sanders, and guys like that. So I probably just want to slowly move the chains and milk the clock. I'm not Sean Payton. I'm just saying I think there's a range of outcomes where that game could be a little bit lower scoring than what people may be expecting. Or at least a range of outcomes where the Saints aren't what people are expecting, Is Watson in your top 5 quarterbacks for this week? Top 5? So I try not to rank quarterbacks because a lot of my lineups are going to be just correlation stacks for tournaments. Russell Wilson's probably one, right? I don't know. If he's He's probably not in the top 5, but he's probably knocking on the door, right? I would definitely have Kyler above him. Josh Allen likely above him. Russell Wilson might be one. Yeah, I don't think he's top 5, but he's knocking on the door. D. Cook, Will Fuller, Jay Atkins. That's it for me. Okay. Let's see, like Dalvin Cook running back with Will Fuller and then a little bit of Akins. I see it. Kamara, you just have to eat the chalk. I'm with you there, Sway. I'm with you there. Anything else from that game? No, right? All right, so next up on the list here, did I say the Mariners? The Seahawks and the Dolphins. Chris Carson has a Q tag on him. I put that in the injury tracker earlier. Questionable with a knee. Coach said he's optimistic he'll play, but he's still a game time decision. So that's probably a little annoying because we anticipate the Seahawks to be massive favorites here. They're -5. Usually you want the running back for the large favorites here. So Chris Carson news would be great, and then you got to deal with the fact that maybe Chris Carson isn't 100%, and maybe they start divvying up the return there. But it is the season of let Russ cook. So Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. I mean, the Seahawks are they rank themselves in lineups, right? You don't need me to give you the correlations there. It's Russell Wilson. You handcuff him with either Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett went absolutely ballistic against the Cowboys. 13 targets, 40 fantasy points, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Definitely, a case for touchdown regression. But at 7K, the targets and the volume and the matchup is still there for him. Don't mind that at all. And then Metcalf, matchup proof. He's almost 7K as well. 20-plus fantasy points isn't a outlandish range of outcomes for him. And he has been really, really good. I don't know if you guys watched that Patriots game, but he was cooking Stephon Gilmore consistently. And that's a compliment. Like, Stephon Gilmore is elite, right? So maybe there's not a range of outcomes where Metcalf and Lockett are the nuts. But it certainly stands to reason that one or the other at those prizes get there at 7K. And then Russell Wilson, almost 8K. You're going to continue to need that 30-plus. But, I mean, this guy's really riding an MVP caliber season. I think probably the biggest question here, if we start analyzing what he's been doing and why he's been doing it, 4 or 5 touchdowns, these are all one-possession games, right? Maybe the Atlanta game got away. But, the Patriots game came down to the wire. They lost to Dallas. Or not lost. The Dallas game came down to the wire. Are the Dolphins going to compete long enough, strong enough to where Russell Wilson has to throw 300 yards? And even if they don't, do they, quote-unquote, let Russ cook? So I will say this probably feels like the least talented offense that the Seahawks are facing in this young season. So I could paint that as a potential catalyst into Russell Wilson at 8K, not necessarily needing to dig deep and extracting the tournament ceiling, right? So maybe something to think about. But on paper, it just seems like he's in such a zone right now to give us a high floor, high ceiling combo. I don't know what I feel like I just heard something. A little bit distracting there. All right, on the Dolphins side, Ryan Fitzpatrick feels fun this week, right? 5,400. Back should be against the wall against this ridiculous Seahawks offense. And so far this week, opposing teams have given us some strong correlations for tournaments, right? Week 1, you could have had Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, guys like that. Even Russell Gage. Week 2, Cam Newton. And then Julian Edelman had his greatest game of his career, receiving yard-wise. And then last week, Dak, and I think Gallup was the guy to have, right? So Ryan Fitzpatrick could follow up all these guys. We know it's in him. We also know 3-4 interceptions could be a range of outcomes. But it seems like once a year Fitzpatrick has that Millie Maker winning week. Could this be the Fitzpatrick Devontae Parker week? Possibly, right? Last couple games for him, 25 and 27, Jacksonville and Buffalo. I'm a loose buyer here so far. And Devontae Parker, like I said, he's 5,700. It feels weird looking at his name next to like Odell Beckham here with the respective totals and whatnot. I think there's a scenario where Devontae Parker at 5,700 pays off. Mike Gesicki, tight end spot here. He's 5'1". Kind of have to look at him as a receiver if you're paying that price point. But if you look at week 2 against Buffalo, 30 fantasy points, so it's at least a range of outcome for him. And then, of course, guys like Gaskin. So I definitely think like Fitzpatrick and one of his pass catchers could be really, really fun for tournaments and maybe even for like single entry tournaments. Preston Williams, just 2 targets last week. Yeah, so give me some Fitz and some Devontae Parker handcuffs. And then with the Seahawks, man, if Chris Carson's in, like the process says we want him, right? As a running back on one of the highest team total favorites, looking for 20 fantasy points, sure. I feel like my gut's never gonna make me feel warm and fuzzy on him, even if he's in and it's got that Q tag, and then we know that the Seahawks can be a team that kind of spread it out running wise. So historically, so if they have a less than 100% Chris Carson, I may not be overly enthusiastic on rostering him. 11 fit stacks for this game, a little too much. I'm with that. What up, Darren? Danny, why are you streaming on my YouTube channel? Okay, buddy. Just checking in, about to rewind, gotta soak it in. All right, Gentry, man, appreciate you. It's laid back, Gentry, man. Get some music going. You can put the fights on, man. I'm just laid back Cadillac Jack drinking a bang, right? Yeah. So any secrets in this game? Isaiah Ford, 3,700, 295. There's a couple of cheap handcuffs here that will open up some salary for those running back lineups that I love so much. So I don't know. I think the recent history tells me Fitz and Devontae Parker is like the combo I want, but you can paint a picture for Isaiah Ford or Gesicki to get involved, right? Let's move on. Another 1 p.m. game, the Chargers and the Buccaneers. Buccaneers might be limping into this one. Let's see what the total is for this game. We've got a 43-point total. It's dropped all the way to 43. The Bucs are 7-point favorites. The Chargers, of course, without Tyrod Taylor again, it looks like. Tough spot for them. Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, still a trio that I think gives you a puncher's chance. You throw Hunter Henry into the mix. The Bucs, man, 7? That's a big spread. I gotta chill before I think about the Chargers covering that. That's a big spread, man. So somebody had asked about Ronald Jones earlier. If the process says massive home favorites with the workload, right? We know Leonard Fournette is out, and Fournette after week 1 just kind of came in and became annoying. 12 carries week 2, and then last week against Denver had enough carries to be annoying, and then Godwin and Evans were all there. If we take Leonard Fournette out of this game, and we take Chris Godwin out of this game, I definitely think there's a stronger case for Ronald Jones than I would want to admit. But I think his workload could look a lot more like week 1. And not that the results are there, but certainly feels like there's at least a case to be made that he'll be involved. So if you think like Mike Evans can draw a flag at the 1 in the end zone, and Ronald Jones can run it in and have enough peripheral and supplementary uses to give him 70 yards and a couple of catches, I feel like at 4,700, there's a range of outcomes where he could get there. It kind of feels like Devin Singletary to me from last week. So I'm not in love with locking him in, but I do think without Fournette, without Chris Godwin, there's a case. There just is. And then Mike Evans, man, not a great individual matchup here for Evans, right? But 6,400, we get double-digit targets for him. I think it's possible. Do we trust the Chargers secondary to limit him or shut him down? And if we did, who would be the next beneficiary? Would it be Scotty Miller? Q-tag on him, but we saw in week 1, Scotty Miller, 6 targets, 5 targets last week. It's really hard to love and trust any of these Bucks. That's why I don't know if I'm buying that -7, but what do I know? On the Chargers side, Eckler and Keenan Allen are the two guys I'd be looking at most of all. If I go look at the defense versus position for the Buccaneers so far, let me take everyone out. Just put the Bucks for a second. 71.4% catch rate to opposing receivers. Defensively, they've been fine. There's not really one spot where they're suffering against. So yeah, you take a rookie quarterback west to east against Tom Brady. Could be tough. Keenan Allen, if you trust in that 7-point underdog spread, Keenan Allen, 19 targets last week, 10 the week before, both with Justin Herbert under center. I'm buying that at 6,500. Matchup be darned. If you're a slot receiver with double-digit targets, I'm looking at you. So Keenan Allen's probably my first take from this game on both sides. Eckler has a case, but I probably don't get there at 7,100. Last week we saw 11 targets for him. Again, PPR, man, if you can check down double-digit targets, sure, you'll get there for fantasy sake. So I'll have some Eckler, but I'm leaning a little bit more towards Keenan Allen, one. And then Eckler makes the mix, but my high-end running back pool is a little bit cluttered so far with Kamara and Cook, but I think Eckler could PPR his way there. I feel like I like the Chargers for fantasy here, but I guess it's more just due to predictive value and PPR potential. I don't think I'm having a lot of Bucks exposure here. I don't get the warm and fuzzies when I put Ronald Jones into the mix. Mike Evans seems like he's going to be double teamed. Scotty Miller, I guess, could slip through. I don't know, man. What up, Mike Lowry? Gesicki gonna eat? I definitely see that. Potentially a lot of injuries in the Seahawks secondary too. Yep. Bucks defense, it may rain in Tampa. So I'm definitely a very lazy tout when it comes to defense, because my approach to defense is I'm making my lineup and I probably fit the cheapest defense that makes the most sense. Defense to me, I think, is probably one of the most highest variance things in DFS right now. You really just get that defense that scoop and scores or gets you that touchdown, and yeah. But Buccaneers defensively make a lot of sense. 7-point massive home favorites have gotten you 14-18 last 2 weeks against perceptually weak teams. Yeah, definitely no pushback here. Also, with that said, Carolina and Denver, maybe they're inflating some stats here. They still haven't allowed a 100-yard rushing game though, so I don't think they're bad. May rain. If it rains, there's something to watch, but I don't overreact to wind or rain. Rain would just kind of take me off the deep ball guys a little bit, and I just don't really see Tom Brady airing it out a whole lot. And Keenan Allen's more of a possession slot receiver that I'm going after with 10 to 20 targets, so I don't think that would kill me, right? Next game. So we know Tennessee got postponed. All right, Baltimore and Washington. This game total is at 45. And the Redskins have an implied live total of 15.25 points. It's not what you want. Ravens defense definitely in a great spot. They are a 14.5 point favorite. 14.5 point favorite. Do we get 4 quarters of Lamar Jackson? I think in week 1 he sat out the final drive, and was it Robert Griffin or somebody played? So if this game gets that crazy out of control, who knows what will happen? But could it be the Mark Ingram game or the J.K. Dobbins game? Oh boy, that's gonna be. Can't wait for that. But Ravens defense makes a lot of sense. When a defense is literally over 2 touchdown favorites, definitely seems like you could potentially bake in some defensive touchdown potential. They've had a defensive touchdown in 2 games straight, Houston and KC. And then if you get a big-time lead against a team like the Ravens, where you just don't have to play against a run for a half and just sit on certain passes, and a young quarterback and his predictive tendencies to throw at certain people certainly stands to reason that Haskins could give it up here. So 4K for the Ravens. If you can fit them, play them. I'll play them. And then on the Ravens offensively, Lamar Jackson 8-1, right? But does he have to keep his foot on the gas here to keep scoring? The answer is more than likely no. And if you look at maybe week 1 and week 2, where he didn't have to keep his foot on the gas, the 38-6 win against the Browns, 33-16 against Houston, 27-17 at 8-1, I think is fadeable at the quarterback spot. So I probably don't jam him in. I won't jam him in just because it seems like it's a non-competitive game and could be one of those mercy type situations. Mark Andrews, tight end spot here. He piques my interest here. Very likely a red zone target here for Lamar Jackson. 8 targets last week against Kansas City. You could also make the case for Marquise Brown. I don't jam in either one of those. I think those would just be like tournament correlation handcuffs to Lamar Jackson in case he threw 2 or 3 touchdowns to one of those guys. But for obvious reasons, I'm not pushing it. And then Logan Thomas, man, how sick would I feel if I had no Logan Thomas after chasing him for 2 weeks and the amount of routes that he's run. In the NFL so far this season, Logan Thomas has run 99 routes on 108 plays. That's a 92% route percentage. The only guys that have ran more routes, just in general, not percentage, just more routes, Zach Ertz, Evan Ingram, Hayden Hurst, Noah Fant, and Darren Waller. So the routes are there, the opportunities there. He's a active pass catcher, downfield receiver, a lot. It's just his quarterback just hasn't been making it happen. But 8, 9, 7 targets. Matchup against the Ravens, not one that I'm going on my way to target. But maybe just because I'm at that slot machine, he's in my pool and I cap him at 20%, just in case we get that flop lag for the Logan Thomas game, right? Because when a team is down 2-3 touchdowns in the second half, there's a lot of prevent defense and a lot of squirrely stuff that can happen in PPR that could overcome matchup restraints, right? Mike Lowry. Lamar looks good, but do you really trust his weapons after last game? I would probably only trust Lamar, maybe Andrews from Baltimore. That's kind of where I'm at. Oh, man. I spilled some bang in my beard. What's up? Do you have beer? Just landed on your channel. Your streaming style is freaking awesome. Love the interaction. Love the fact you have a stance someplace instead of giving obvious vanilla picks while I find most. Hey, I appreciate that, man. I really do. I haven't put up a video this week, but there's probably been about 5 of you guys to DM me on Twitter, and that's kind of like this. You guys kind of have all said that. It's just like there's reasons behind picks, so I do appreciate that. Definitely not a knock on anyone else's style or game, but that's just the way I play, right? We trying to seek out plays, but justify them with reasons. I don't really go by gut feelings or anything like that. I go by process. And as far as interacting with chat, I mean, I wouldn't. If I was on the air right now to 0 viewers, it wouldn't be that fun. So I appreciate that, man. Hopefully you stick around. I started the week, I think, 5 subscribers away from 5K. If you guys, I see we got, 45 viewers. If you guys are watching, not subscribed, you want to make me feel good and get this channel to 5,000 subscribers by the time I get off the air, that would be amazing. But otherwise, I appreciate you guys stopping by anyway. Logan Thomas is bad at football. Is he bad at football, or is Dwayne Haskins not putting it together yet? It could be both. But I've definitely played people that are bad at football if they're going to get 9 targets, you know what I'm saying? The game script is the game script. So I think the process still says that a guy that's going to be a team leader in targets in a positive game script, and by positive I mean they're going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to throw it to somebody. And for PPR, Logan Thomas could have 30 yards, but if he has 8 catches, then he probably fills out a lineup as a not horrible play at his price point. So yeah, I don't really disqualify someone from my player pool if they're just bad, What up, AJ? Always love the YouTube content. Man, I love y'all. Y'all are awesome. Where was I? Not gonna play Haskins. McLaurin does have a Q tag on him. If you thought McLaurin was banged up, it's not a great matchup for McLaurin anyway. I did think Jimmy Smith had a Q tag on him. Let me see. About the Baltimore Ravens here. Jimmy Smith, knee with questionable. I think we've already seen him miss. Yeah. So if McLaurin could at least be like maybe if Jimmy Smith was out and McLaurin could maybe decoy a guy like, I don't know, Marcus Peters. Maybe look at a guy like Dontrell Inman, 3,700. Last week, he put up 18 fantasy points, 6 targets. You know what I'm saying? Like, still a positive game script for the supplementary guys. But this is all from a tournament mindset, not something I would entertain in single entry or cash, right? Let's move on to the Giants and the Rams. So let's go with the game total for this one. We've got a 48.5 total. The Rams favored by 13.5. This is a 2020 slate, right? Corona canceling a pair of games, a couple of 13, 14-point spreads, bunch of injuries, and this is just week 4. Gotta love it. All right, Rams side. Let's start with the injury report for the Rams, just in case Akers. I think Akers is still out, right? So, Rams. Cam Akers is still out. So, Akers is out. Definitely would have interest in Malcolm Brown and, like, Darrell Henderson. Brown only... Oh, Jesus. I put Marquise Brown. Malcolm Brown. Let me just type Malcolm. 4,700 for him. We've already talked about a couple 4,700. I think Ronald Jones was in that area, right? So on paper, Ronald Jones... I mean, maybe they do have the same. I don't know. It still seems like a timeshare no matter what between Malcolm Brown and, like, Darrell Henderson. He had 7 carries here, 2 targets. And Henderson last week had 20 carries. Maybe it's not a timeshare. Maybe Henderson's the move here, 5,800. What a weird situation they got, right? So Henderson is an uneasy click, but he's a click process-wise. 13.5 point home favorites here. So I'll take a shot on him. Otherwise, matchup-wise, Robert Woods makes a lot of sense. I liked Cooper Kupp a lot last week, but I thought that was a matchup exploit, and that's exactly what it was. 10 targets, got it for me. But I do think on a normal week when this offense is firing against average at best defenses, Robert Woods will peak just a little bit more consistently. 20-plus fantasy points in 2 of his 3 games, including last week. So definitely don't mind looking at him. And then Higbee is just getting into the end zone, right? 5,700 for Tyler Higbee. 2 weeks ago, he had 3 touchdowns. I thought maybe last week, maybe he had 1 call back last week. But last week, just 2 targets, but averaged 20 yards a catch, 31-yard reception. I'm not pushing the issue at 5,700 for Higbee. I felt like he had a touchdown last week, so I guess I remembered that wrong. So give me a taste of like Robert Woods, but I think the question here is just trying to figure out what to do with Darrell Henderson. I think I throw him in the pool. I probably cap him at 10%, and then if I really wanted to hedge that with like a Malcolm Brown, because we've seen Malcolm Brown have a sizable game, just because it's a 13.5 point game with no Cam Akers, like right the slate's just giving us that. The Giants feel like they are hard to love. Evan Ingram was in that list of tight ends running high routes. I think the Rams defense is certainly in play here against a young running back here, but the Giants do have some game script potential positives for fantasy. Golden Tate is 4,600. He had 7 targets last week against these 2 matchups here, the Bears and the Niners, not great spots. Rams not a great spot either, but I think a little bit more chemistry being built here, and without Saquon Barkley, the ball's got to go somewhere. So if the pressure's on the Giants here to throw the ball more, I think Golden Tate at 4,600 could PPR his way into a serviceable performance. I don't think I'm gonna get to Darius Slayton, right? He's likely on the He's likely on the outside, right? Let me pull up the. Let's see how they lined up last week. Receiver alignment. Week 3. If he's on the outside, we probably put him against Ramsey, right? I know Ramsey hasn't been Ramsey, but this is Darius Slayton. So Slayton has lined up 136 routes on the outside and just 31 in the slot. And Tate has lined up 72 times in the slot out of 88. So looks like Golden Tate's going to be our slot guy. So if we can possession slot receiver Golden Tate here as a 2-possession underdog. I think under 5K, I'm going to be an investor in that. And Ingram doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. 4-4 for him, though. 5, 8, 7 targets. He just hasn't really put together one of those big games. But again, to the Giants' credit, those are some tough defenses in week 1, 2, and 3, right? Steelers really tough. At Soldier Field, tough. The Niners were a little bit more banged up. But they're still inherently just a culture of a strong defense, strong team. So maybe the Rams don't feel like a great spot either. But maybe we give them a little bit extra rope here, just based on how tough their strength of schedule has been so far. But I think I'll take some Golden Tate. I don't think I'm gonna deal with the running back situation here. Devontae Freeman's in the mix here at 4,800. 5 carries last week, but I definitely expect that to increase going forward. And then Deion Lewis is 44. Can we get targets from Deion Lewis? 3-5, 4-4. I just don't think I'm pushing the issue. So I think Golden Tate's going to be the extent of my Giants exposure. And then on the Rams, they're all in play. Robert Woods is probably my favorite receiver there. And then Darrell Henderson, if we're just chasing recency bias without Cam Akers, seems like the guy we should think about with what he did last week. So at 5,800, can I get 20 plus? He's done that. So yeah. All right, what do you guys got on this one? I did it again. Doubt Henderson will be chalky with David Johnson. I don't know, man. You think David Johnson is... I like David Johnson. I'm just saying I always struggle to gauge the field. That's why I just look at ownership projections, David Johnson will be the chalk. Hey, you guys have your ear to the ground, man. I'm a little late to the party. What up, Nitzin? Hey, guys, should I trade Adam Thielen and Diggs for Hill? My other wide receivers are DK Metcalf and Godwin full PPR. Adam Thielen and Diggs for Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't. If it's PPR, I just grab the floor. You know what I'm saying? You put Thielens and Diggs, that's probably an average of 8 targets a week each. Hill's fine, but I wouldn't give up that much. And then you don't have Godwin this week anyway. I wouldn't. That's just me, though. I think Tyreek Hill's a fantastic guy to have, but he's not worth 2 of team target leaders. Tate runs the slot. Yep. Looking at Isaiah Ford, Miami versus Seattle, I like that call. I'm going to take some shots with Ford in my Fitz stacks. I like that. Fitz is cheap, Ford is cheap. Seattle's very weak versus slot. Give Saturday to get some great plays everywhere. I like that. I like all that call. You guys are on it. You guys are sharp. Colts and the Bears, and then we only have 2 games left. So Colts and the Bears, next game on the docket. If you guys didn't know, this game was initially an afternoon game, but after the Chiefs game got postponed, they moved the Bears game to the afternoon because they would have only had 2 afternoon games, and I guess for to satisfy TV contracts, I'm assuming they had to move that game. That way CBS or Fox would have something to put on it. I'm just guessing that's what it is. Total for this one, 43 points. We've got a 2.5-point spread in favor of the visiting Colts. So this just seems like a meager total. It is Nick Foles' season up in Chicago. Foles came in and led the comeback against the Atlanta Falcons. But at this point, one of you guys might be able to do that too. With that said, Nick Foles comes into this game at 5,700. And he looked like he was competent, knew what he was doing. 16 for 29, so barely a 55% completion rate. Yikes. But got you there. Got him 3 touchdowns. I don't think I'm playing Nick Foles here, but I would probably have a higher level of confidence in a guy like Allen Robinson now. But man, oh man, is he not 6K anymore? 6,700. We're knocking on the door of 7K. He's fine. I think he might get priced out of my common player pool just because I'm going to be so invested in the high end running backs. But he's absolutely somebody I wouldn't push you away from. I'm probably not playing with the running backs here, at least not on the Bears side. Anthony Miller's a maybe. If I look at the Colts side, looks like Jack Doyle's back in the mix. I think he was back in the mix last week, and Mo Alley Cox still got there. T.Y. Hilton. We still waiting on this one. 3, 5, 9 targets, man. It's so weird to see T.Y. Hilton so cheap when we know what his ceiling has been historically, but rough to love it. Jonathan Taylor, the usage has been there for him. The results haven't been something that like blow me away, right? 26 carries 2 weeks ago against Minnesota, and like 22 is just like okay. This game is just so underwhelming, right? If we full fade this game, what's most likely to burn us in this game for tournaments? It might be, I don't know, maybe an Anthony Miller or a Allen Robinson big game, but it's just hard to feel like I'm missing out on a game where both teams are barely implied for 3 touchdowns. So I probably don't do much here. If you guys have some secret plays here, share the fire with the rest of the class. I was going to say, I didn't know if there was some reverse line movement. It doesn't look like it. Yeah, I don't know. This game just seems like it exists. And like maybe I check off a Rob or a Miller or even like a Pascal or something like that just to be in the pool and they drop in a lineup. But I couldn't see myself having dedicated correlation stacks to either one of these teams. So I probably won't. Yeah. Times I heard they never got over it. It's like they are cursed now. Yeah. Dude, my heart goes out to the Falcons. I know a lot of Falcons fans in the Discord. That's a rough 3-week start, man. It's already kind of like rough because of them essentially doing it in that Super Bowl game. But yikes, all the Dolphins would be low. Maybe. I say maybe. Again, I'm bad at gauging ownership. I've definitely seen some people in some group DMs that I'm in discuss Fitzpatrick, and I'm with it. Mo Alley Cox, my sneaky dart throw for value. Yeah, I get it. So far, it's tight end hasn't been as black and white as I thought it would be. We got one game left. Before I do that, take a pause for the cause. If you guys want access to the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheets, I'll be sweeping my projections again. I think I swept them like this afternoon. I'll be filling out my game notes here in a minute, where I kind of just re-put everything I just said in here, and then I also have my full-on player pool. Hold on, let me move it over here for a second. One second, chat. 1 second. Okay, we're good. I also have my full player pool here. So if you guys want to see, just kind of compare my notes to yours, see where I'm at, my favorite groups for tournaments, all that stuff. You guys can get that with access to it through RunDFS.com. Right now, the VIP passes are really as low as they have ever been, and it's simply because there's really not a way I can offer pre-lock voice chats for NBA or baseball, postseason baseball. I'm still committed to putting the projected baseball lineups into the RunDFS.com MLB VIP spreadsheets, but because the access to me is a little bit lower because the games are so spread out, I decided to drop the prices this weekend. So it's only $20 for the week pass. It's usually like $30. The month pass is $50. It's usually $100. You guys can lock into the rest of the year for just $100. So 3 months of 24/7 Discord chat, and then you guys can or reserve 2021. And if you got 2021's full year pass now, you'd get the rest of this year thrown in, just because it's such a weird world. So it looks like we're gonna get NBA back in January. Knock on wood. I will say, in addition to just the spreadsheet stuff, you get access to the RunDFS.com VIP Discord. And after this stream, I'll be in the voice chat. You guys can jump in this voice chat right here, and you'll see all of these Vipers have access to that as well. If you guys want to chop it up a little bit more. I know Logan and Chronic told me they got Fantasy Lab subscription, so I'll probably spend some time talking about some of the features or how to use an optimizer to build lineups and correlations and stuff like that. So if you kind of fit that boat, you want to chop up the slate a little bit more, just go get yourself a week pass and then jump into voice chat here in a little bit, and we'll have some fun tonight. And then of course, yeah. So that's all the plugs, right? That's all the plugs. You can get a channel membership if you want. Support the channel, sure. One game left on the docket. The Bills and the Raiders. Josh Allen has just been really, really, really good for fantasy, and he's becoming one of my favorite tournament handcuffs every week. Him and like Stephon Diggs, and even him and John Brown to an extent, but I love him and Diggs. We got a game total of 52.5. I like this game a lot. I think if I start with my Bills exposure, I'm looking at Josh Allen. I'm looking at Stephon Diggs. Allen has given us 30-plus fantasy points in every game thus far. And he's really not doing it with as much rushing yards as you might think. Just 57 in week one. Not just, but 57 in week one, but the last 2 weeks, 20 or less. But getting in the end zone has been big for him, and he's just airing it out. 300-plus passing yards. Now, the defense, the strength of schedule could be in his favor here in the last 3 games. The Jets have just been terrible. The Dolphins are the Dolphins. The Rams, sure. But I just think he is a very good quarterback that finally has like a receiving core that he can work with, and I love what they're doing. So give me Josh Allen, give me Stephon Diggs handcuffs for sure. Diggs is 6,800, so I put them together. I'm looking for hopefully 50 fantasy points on the low end. Diggs 14, 32, 16 here. I think Brown, John Brown, is the other guy I would look at. 2, 6, and 10 targets the last couple weeks. Last week his matchup a little bit tougher, but in the first 2 weeks, 18 and 19. And then is it Amendola, the third guy here? No, not Amendola. Who's the guy that used to play for the Cowboys? I can't think of his name right now. Beasley. I'm racist. Slot receiver, white dude. Beasley's the other guy in the mix. 7, 6, and 7 targets for him. So all guys that I would definitely consider. I probably don't double stack with Josh Allen more often than not, meaning I probably wouldn't have an Allen and Diggs and Brown. It's probably just going to be a 1-and-1. But yeah, he also threw to his tight end last week. Not Dawson Knox, but was it Tyler Kroft got in the end zone? 2 touchdowns last week. So Dawson Knox, I think, is back this week, so maybe that murkies the water a little bit more there. But yeah, I'd probably just give me Allen and Diggs. On the Raiders side, this game is a 3-point spread in favor of the Bills. So Darren Waller obviously is probably the leading option for me on the Raiders side. 5,200 targets should be there. Last week a tough spot, right? Anytime you put the number one guy against the Patriots, always assume that Bill Belichick's going to find a way to neutralize you. And that's kind of what we saw. But week 2, he was fine. Week 1, he was fine. It's probably going to lead the team in targets on the day. And we know that they're still going to be down. I think Henry Ruggs is out. Don't quote me on that one. I think, Ruggs is doubtful. And then Bryan Edwards is out. So plenty of pressure to be throwing the ball there to Darren Waller. He's going to line up like a receiver. He'd be the guy I look at. And then if I wanted to look at some receivers, I guess maybe a Hunter Renfrow or Aguilar. Even Zay Jones has been like trolly. But none of these guys are going to be guys that I would specifically force into a lineup. Renfrow, at least last week, showed me he can get 20. But it would really just be Darren Waller. And then if it's going to be a touchdown game, like in neutral game scripts, I think there's a case for Josh Jacobs, and they said they expected him to double his targets from last season. Week 1 was encouraging. Last 2 weeks, 3 and 4 targets. So I don't know. I think it's in him still, but unless the Raiders are like projected favorites, or if it's neutral, which this game script feels neutral, and we saw what Darrell Henderson was able to do. I probably have a little, but at 6'8", I'm not jamming it, right? And probably neither defense for me here. But I do like this game. So you can give me Darren Waller, Diggs, Allen. I don't think I'm playing with I think Jacobs is fine, but I don't think I'm gonna like force the issue with him. Like, he'll be in the pool, right? But I'm not gonna force it. See what you guys got before we get out of here, right? Rivers likes throwing to his tight ends. He does, but it's annoying because they have a couple of them. Like I was on Mo Ali Cox 2 weeks ago when Doyle was out, and we know who's the other tight end that's out for them. It's not Ebron because Ebron left, but I think he used to play for the Browns. I'm bad with names tonight. My brain needs to wake up. This bang's not doing its job. Trey Burton is the other one. Is Trey Burton active? Oh, good call there. Yeah, okay, so if he's going to be having tight ends tripping over each other, it's tough. What up, Blake? Hey, Gunn, how do you feel about Adam Trautman? Is that the Bucs tight end? Not the Bucs. I'm so bad tonight. The New Orleans tight end with Jared Cook out. There's really nothing to know here. I would just say, like, best case scenario would be him getting Jared Cook's targets, which would be 3 and 5 the last 2 weeks, without Michael Thomas, mind you. So that's not really anything for me to go crazy over, but the price is fine. If he fell into the end zone at 2,500, he'd be fine. It's not something that I would. It's not like Darren Waller's out, right? And we got to replace him. It's just Jared Cook. KBO? No. StatMuse, Kenny Golladay versus New Orleans. Okay, StatMuse in the NFL a little bit dangerous. Beasley, there we go. I know Fitz has been decent. I just hope it doesn't go Fitz tragic. Ouch. You like Colts D? Got here late. So I've said it earlier, but I'm just lazy when it comes to defense. Give me a defense that can probably get me a touchdown. Historically, if a defense is favored by 2 touchdowns, there might be room for them to score a touchdown. So Ravens make a lot of sense in that facet, and then the Rams would make some sense if you went by that. Otherwise, I'm looking for pick sixes, right? I'm just looking for a defense that scores a touchdown. You really can't project the defense to pitch a shutout. The Colts defense, 26-15, 2 touchdowns last week. They're fine. Nick Foles, I don't think so. Obviously, Nick Foles is fun to root for, but he's kind of like Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he's not great. Right? He's not some fantastic quarterback. Last week, he completed 55% of passes. It just happened to get 3 touchdowns against the Falcons, right? So I think they're fine. Normally, what I would look for process-wise in a defense is large home favorite. But that's not the case here. And with the pandemic limiting fans and whatever, I don't put as much credence on that rule, but it's definitely something historically that I look for, you know. I was using Bird and Harry as my punt plays. Any suggestions or replacement for DK? So Demir Bird and N'Keal Harry from the Patriots. So what prices are we thinking here? 4K and 3K. So we've talked about the Dolphins wide receiver 3, right? Which was Isaiah Ford. He's in that area. I don't know. Let me look at my own projections here. Let's go 25, 26, 27. I'm just going to take, basically you're looking for a punt, right? A punt receiver. So I'm going to go 4,200 or less in the spreadsheet here. Highest value. Let's go highest DraftKings points here. Got Greg Ward, but that's not on this slate, right? Yeah, it's not on this slate. That's on the Sunday night game. So if you are playing Sunday night, know that the Eagles could be without Deshaun Jackson and Arcega Whiteside. Let's narrow this down to wide receiver only. Scotty Miller without Chris Godwin makes a lot of sense. Nelson Aguilar potentially without Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards at least makes sense on paper. Do we get high targets his way? 3 last week. Hard to love it, but, you know, he's fitting the bill. I think Isaiah Ford makes the most sense, and then if McLaurin's banged up, Dontrell Inman has a case, and then Danny Amendola. But because because Janoris Jenkins and Marshawn Lattimore are out, I think all of the receivers are in good spots, so maybe there's less pressure for Stafford to throw to Amendola over the middle. But it gets kind of ugly down here, man. It does. I'd probably be leaning on Isaiah Ford or Inman, though. Other questions, do the Colts cover -3? I could see that being a field goal game. See if you, I guess 3 is 2.5, but I'd rather have 3, right? You can see win them by a field goal. Right now, Labs is showing them live. Shop around some books. You might be able to get them -2.5, and then the 3 would cover. 3 feels kind of trolly for a Bears Colts game. What's the Chicago temperature? Chicago temperature tomorrow at 3. 54 degrees. Yeah. If you can find a book that'll give you 2.5, maybe go for that. But 3 is a little trolly. Andy Isabella, yeah. Gruden loves randos in the red zone. Yes, he does. James Robinson and Jonathan Taylor price went up quick. I do like Robinson, though. Taylor is more of a volume guy, but the far right column hasn't really got there for me. But James Robinson's actually in a fun spot in my estimation against the Bengals here. Bengals have just been really bad against the run. And if Robinson's in a positive game script here, even if he's not, we saw 6 targets out of him last week. 6,500, there might still be some meat on the bone for him against the Bengals. Yeah, no. Anyway, chat, I got to get into the Discord and finish my notes here for the RunDFS.com VIPers. But if you have anything else for me, Twitter.com/GundackerSports. That's the way to do it. If you guys are Yankee fans and you want to tilt some Yankee baseball with me Monday, look for my rage tweets on Twitter. I sure appreciate you guys hanging out. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. There's maybe even a chance we're at 5,000 subscribers because I've been on the air and so many of you guys are just awesome and hanging out. Let me see. It says 4.99. So if I go to my dashboard, I have 4,997. So I'm 3 subscribers away from 5K. So maybe this week will be the week. I feel like 5K has been the the glass ceiling. Like I just haven't been able to get through it. But if you guys are watching and you haven't subscribed, you want to help me out, maybe hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys hanging out on a Saturday night. If you guys got anything else for me, Twitter.com/GundackerSports. My DMs are open, and I'll try and chop it up as much as possible. But I'll be in that RunDFS.com VIP Discord. So go get yourself a week pass, man. Try it out. Good way to support the stream, support the site, and get something in return. Some spreadsheet access and notes and good stuff like that, man. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I hope you crush it. Stay warm. Stay safe. And I'll see you guys next week, man. Let's win some money tomorrow. Good luck. God bless.